Today I am here to talk about my nanny chronicles. Mothers who have employed nannies, I'm sure you will relate to some of the things that I'll be talking about here today. And my son is almost turning 5. So in a span of, let's say, these 5 years, I have employed about 9 nannies, if not 10, but I'm sure it's not more than 10. But the number would have been more if I hadn't taken my son to a daycare at some point. Well, that's how stressful it is employing nannies. And I'm going to be dropping some pieces of advice in case you are planning to start employing nannies soon, so that you can learn from my mistakes and just learn from my experience. And before I get to what I'm going to talk about today, if you haven't subscribed to this channel, kindly take a second and do so, and press on the notification bell so that you can be notified when I upload a new video. Hi everyone, a very warm welcome to this channel. My name is Fenifara. Thank you so much for clicking on this video, and today we are talking about nanny chronicles. I'm going to talk about how my experience has been with each nanny that I have employed in my household. So I started making mistakes ever since I employed nanny number 1. And the first mistake I did was employing the nanny like towards, I just didn't have enough time to train the nanny because I was at home for my maternity leave, and then I employed the nanny towards the end of my maternity leave. So we didn't have enough time to just train each other, to give even her enough time to bond with the baby. It was just me employing the nanny and then shoop, back to work and back to my crazy shifts and schedules. So that was my first mistake. Because at that time, by the way, I gave birth to my son on December 2018. So and at that time I was living in a household full of people, so I didn't see the need of employing a nanny earlier on. And then come January, I remained with my son alone. Then February, and then March, the beginning of March was when I went back to work. So you can imagine I employed the nanny the beginning of March when I was going back to work. And that was my mistake number 1. I should have employed this or any other nanny before and given them time to bond and everything. So this first nanny, it was a referral from one of the workers in the complex that we were living in. So she came and I just said, like, your work is to take care of the baby and just make sure the baby is well fed and clean and everything, such things. So far so good. But one day as I came back home, I was told by one of the people living in the household, like, you have to fire this nanny. I was like, why? Mind you, this nanny has not even stayed for long. We were on the 2nd week. So I was told, you have to fire this nanny. I'm like, why do I have to fire this nanny? Huyu msichana ni mchafu sana. Nimempata akipanguzia kitambaa ya mtoto nayo meza. Hey. I'm like, amepanguzia kitambaa ya mtoto meza. Wewe na hiyo kazi yako yenye unaenda, na huku mtoto wako atashikwa na magonjwa. Itabidi umwachilie aende. So I was there, I was confused. I just got this nanny and I just got back to work, and work was hectic for me as a new mom. I'm telling you, the first few weeks at work was so emotional for me. I was like, do I have to do this? Do I have to be here and leave my tiny little baby at home? So I was already emotional. I was already going through so much in my mind. And then now, this nanny that I just got, I'm being told I have to fire her. And I have no experience in firing anyone. So now that was a whole other new dilemma that I was in. And this person insisted, like, shida yako, hata hiyo pesa unapata utakuwa unaishia nayo hospitali ukitibu mtoto magonjwa. Kwa hivyo hata ni kazi bure. You have to get rid of this nanny. Hey. So I asked the nanny, like, mbona unapanguzia kitambaa ya mtoto nayo meza? And this nanny was shocked by the allegations. Like, hey, Mimi sijawahi like she was shocked. So I just didn't know like what to believe, who to believe. And on this side, I was being pressured to fire the nanny, and I was like, okay. So I had to pay her and release her. And that was the end of my first nanny. And it was sad. At that moment, I was going through so much. And I just had to release her. And I got another one, a day bag. So this day bag, I'm telling you, my experience with day bags. Wah. Let me just say that sometimes when you have a day bag, you shop for two houses. That's all I'm going to say. So after the first two nannies, I was like, I think I'm done. I'm done with nannies. I don't think I want to experience this. And my son's grandmother suggested that since we were not living far off from each other, I should be taking my son for the day, and then I'll pick him up in the evening. And I said, oh, that's a perfect arrangement. So that's what happened next. I usually wake up very early in the morning, cook for my son, like cook all the meals that my son will take throughout the day, prepare him, like, and then pack extra clothes in the bag, and then I will take him to his grandmother. And then during the evening, I will come back, pick him up, and then we went back home and did every other thing. So that we did that for our and I'm telling you, that was tiresome. Like, hey, I used to be tired. I'm telling you, I don't know. That was just a hectic time in my life as well. So we did that for a while, and then fast forward, when my son was about to turn a year, everything changed, and then I had to hire another nanny. And this time I still had a day bag, but I told this day bag, like, please do not steal from me. If you need something, just ask so that I know that you have taken it. Like, just ask for something if you want, and I'll just give it to you instead of you stealing. And so far, this nanny was good. She would ask for things. She did not steal from me, and it was like, perfect. So one day I come home from work, and I'm being told, this nanny that you have employed is not taking good care of your son. This nanny has studied your patterns, so when you are about to come home, that is when she's doing everything. But during the day, she's on the roadside gossiping with other people. She's not doing anything. And I was like, hey. And this time I was like, I have to find evidence of something before I fire any other nanny. And at that time I was like, oh, she's a good one, eh? You know, I really thought she was a good one. I really believed in her. So one day I told my colleague at work, like, please come in early. Please, I am begging you. Just come in early. I have to rush somewhere. I will compensate you the hours. I will even do a double shift if you want me to. But please come in early tomorrow. So my colleague agreed that day. And then I left work early. So upon reaching home, whatever I was told, there was not even one lie. Like, everything I was told was true. I found the nanny by the roadside with my son. Mushene, uji ni baridi. My son had vomited down there. Paka hata, unajua ile mtoto anacheza hapo chini amekula hata mchanga. Like, let me just say, whatever I saw, I felt really bad as a mom. Like, so this is what this nanny has been doing. The moment I leave for work, she lives with my son, and then anamshindisha kwa barabara na mushene, uji inakuwa hadi baridi, my son anapewa uji baridi. Then when it's almost my time to come back home, that's when she rushes to the house and do everything and prepare my son. So when I come back home, I find my son ako msafi nini, but That's not how wameshinda hivyo. So now I had to release this nanny again. And I was like, I'm tired of this nanny thing, like employing, because it's exhausting. I can't seem to find a good nanny. So now I found a nice daycare where I lived at that time. And it was a home daycare. And that's where I decided, like, from now on, my son will be going to this daycare and I'm not going to employ any other nanny. I'm just tired of having people in my house and taking my kindness for for weakness, taking me for granted, like blah, 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 blah. I was just angry. So I took my son to this daycare, and it was a home daycare. And I can say that this daycare really helped me a lot, because with my crazy shifts, sometimes I would come back at 10 p.m. and the daycare will still take care of my son until that time. We had an agreement with the daycare owner that I will pay a certain amount, even on the days that I would come home late, and I will find my son okay. So I took my son to that daycare for a while, and then at some point my brother came in to live with me. So during the days that I had I will be at work until late, my brother would come in and pick my son up from the daycare earlier, and that worked for a while. So I was comfortable with that daycare for a while, but again, I had to move from that area for safety concerns. For my son and I safety concerns, I had to move out of that area, and now I moved into this area where I am now. And when I came into this area, I didn't know this area really well, so I didn't know any daycares around. I had to go back to square one and employ another nanny. So at this point, I went to a bureau, because I didn't even know where I would get a nanny. So I just walked into a bureau, and I was referred to a nanny, and then she came in. And I'm telling you, this nanny ni wale wajuaji wa Nairobi. This nanny used to be on phone calls the whole day, and even being on phone calls the whole day was not the problem. The conversation that she was having on those calls was so alarming to me. She was like bashing her former employers. She was like, "Icho kimama ni kijinga," those such conversations, and that didn't sit well with me. And she just looked like a drama queen. And I was like, oh my God, there's no way I can stay with this nanny. So I had to come up with a lie. I don't know what I told her. I told her like something about work, and that if she continued to stay here, I wouldn't be able to pay her. So it was best I released her early, and then she can just go and find work elsewhere. That's how I released her, because I knew that this will be like a drama queen, and I was at that moment, by the time I was moving into this house, all I wanted was peace of mind. I just didn't want any drama in my life. I just wanted to have peace. So I had to release that nanny as well before anything became worse. So I was like, what am I going to do? I have no nanny. I'm in a new area, and I don't even know any daycares around, because I was researching. There were no daycares around here where I live at that time. So the headache of looking for a nanny, I found another nanny. So I talked to people, and then I was referred to a nanny from Rabai, from where I come from. And I'll say that this was the nanny that I stayed with the longest, because she came and she was just good. I'll say that this was the nanny I stayed with the longest. The problem with this one was, I think she was depressed, and I didn't know how to help her. She would be like sad. She will cry sometimes. And it was the things that she was going through her life, her personal life. She also had a son, same age as us. So I can imagine her pain of leaving her son behind to come and take care of my son, who is the same age as her son. And then on top of that, the personal issues that were, I'm not going to, because it's not my story to tell, but she just had personal issues, and she was like a depressed girl. So she never used to talk. She used to be quiet. And at that time, my son was at a point where she was learning how to talk. my son was learning how to talk. So people will be on my case like, mtoto wako haongei, mtoto wako kwani hajaanza kuongea? And that will make me feel sad, because the environment that I was leaving my son in, it's like he had no one to talk to, because at that point, even in this area, there were no children that my son could play with. So as I went to work, I only left him behind with this particular nanny. And this particular nanny was quiet, sad all day. So you can imagine, my son was not in a position to learn some words. So that was another dilemma. So she was a good nanny, but at the wrong timing. Or maybe, how will I put it? Yeah, she was good. Her work was good. The timing was bad. My son was learning how to talk, and she was a quiet one. She was going through things. So she was not even talking to my son, and people were on my case. Like, hey, mtoto wako hajaanza kuongea, vitu kama hizo. So I was like, what am I going to do? But we stayed with her for the longest, and when she went home for the December holidays, she did not even tell me that she had arrived home safely or anything. She just went mute, and I was like, I guess that's it. I guess she decided she's going to stay behind with her baby, and she didn't want to work anymore. That's what I concluded. So I was like, I have to find a daycare for my son, because everyone was telling me that my son was behind on speech, and oh my God, the pressure. So I was like, I think if I take my son to a daycare again, the interaction with other kids will help him improve on his speech. So that's what I did. I researched, and luckily I found another daycare over here. And it was not as near as, but it was like, it's quite a distance, but it was a good daycare. So no. Before I found that good daycare, I first found another daycare, and this daycare was not the best, because one day my mom was around, so she went and picked us from the daycare, and that's when my mom told me, like, just find another house girl, because no, this daycare is not the best. So I was like, I can't win. So I had to find another house help. And this house help was a recommendation from another house help that was working for someone I knew. And this was, I think I narrated this story before. This one was the thief, the one who even broke into my bedroom. So I had to release her. So I was like, I still have to find a daycare, because everyone was on my case. My son was not speaking at that point. Okay, he was speaking, but in a language that I only could understand. I think mothers, you'll know what I mean. I could understand perfectly well what my son was trying to say, but everyone else will not understand what he was saying. So that was a problem. And I remember at that time, now my dad passed. So when we went home, I didn't have a nanny, and it was hectic. It was like another sad period of my life. And on top of that, now people are still on my case about my son's speech. And looking back, there was nothing wrong with my son. There was nothing wrong. It was just society expectations. And the words that my son was speaking, yes, I could understand him, and people around could not. But that doesn't mean that there was something wrong with him. So I remember when my son was talking to me, and someone was like, mtoto yosema nini? I felt really bad. It's like, mind your business. He's not talking to you, he's talking to me. And anyway, I have never forgiven that person. Let's just say that. So people from around can make you feel bad about your journey as a mother, and that was a really bad time for me. So yeah, coming back from the burial, I now was serious about finding a daycare, because I was like, I'm done with nannies, and with these people telling me that my son is not speaking and he's supposed to be speaking. I need to find a daycare so that my son can interact with other kids and just improve on his speech. So now I found the nice daycare. I took my son to that daycare for a while, and then it was like he's almost now starting school, and I have to find a nanny again because the daycare dynamic will not work when he's starting school. So I have to find someone who will be picking him up from school and you know the rest. So now I went back to looking for another nanny. And this time I found a nanny, but this nanny was lazy. Oh my God. This nanny will be on her phone the whole day online because I had given her the Wi-Fi password. So now she didn't do anything in the house. I will come home from work. Imagine a house that you've been alone. My son is now at school. So there's no excuse that ati mtoto alikusumbua or anything. But the house was dirty. The house was smelling. Hey, I think she didn't even take showers. She will just be on her phone the whole day. And when it was almost time for me to come back home, that's when she will now start washing the dishes. Vyombo za kwanzia sijui saa ngapi hajawahi osha. I was like, I can't live with this nanny. And you know, the first weeks when a child is going to school, no matter how potty trained that child is, sometimes they'll have accidents. So during the first week, my son was afraid of even asking for permission to go to the washroom. So there was a day he soiled himself and the teacher changed him. And now as the teacher was handing over the other clothes, this nanny was angry. So this was what the teacher was telling me. So I released this nanny and the teacher was like, hey, huyo hakukuwa mtu mpoa, hata ni afadhali ulimrelease. So now the teacher was telling me about the incident. I was like, hey, okay, I guess that was that. So now I employed another nanny. Me, I'm telling you, this journey of nannies, sometimes I think about it and I'm like, I just wish my circumstances were different. I just wished that I was able to stay with my son from the word go by myself. But of course, I'm not in a perfect world and you have to work and have to find money and take care of this baby. So now, this other nanny, alinibeba ujinga. So now, I gave her permission. She was like, during the day when your son is at school, can I go to see my uncle? I don't know. Can I go to see, I don't know who. He wants to see me, like a relative. And we talk about like family matters. I was like, okay, you can go. As long as you are back in time to pick my son from school, I have no problem. And as long as you finished everything you're supposed to do, I have no problem. So now she took that advantage. She will not be in this house. When my son is at school, she will be out somewhere doing whatever she was doing, and then she will come back in the evening and pick my son from school. That was not the problem. So at this particular time, she lied to me that she had taken the phone to the fundi, and she was supposed to go and pick it back. So she went and picked the phone to the fundi, and the fundi said ati ajamaliza for like a week now. The next day, I'm still going for my phone. She went ati fundi alituma hiyo simu tao, so sijui paka ningoje, amesema nirudi kesho. The next day, I'm like, hey, every day, ati unaenda kuchukua simu kwa fundi. So this particular day, she did not come back in time to pick my son from school. And I was like, I came back, so I went and picked my son myself from school. And that was the day I was like, no. I can't stay with this nanny. I just can't. Because what is her work? If she's not even picking my son from school on time, what is she doing here? So I had to release her as well. So now, this nanny headache, I'm telling you. So now back to square one, employing another nanny. Hey. So this time I got a referral from someone I knew really well. So I was like, referrals are the best. So I got this nanny. We stayed with this nanny for a while, and she was good. She was good with her job. She was like, I just thought that I had found a perfect nanny. You know, the way you can be comfortable with someone. So I was really comfortable, and she would take care of my son. She would take my son to school, bring him back, and everything was good. My son was fed. Like, I was comfortable with this nanny. So one day, my neighbor said, I need you to help me with your Wi-Fi password. I'm like, oh, she was like, when you come back home, pass by my house, and so that you can help me with your Wi-Fi password, you can put it on my TV. I was like, cool. I just didn't pay much attention to it. So I was like, I'll be there. And that day, it was one of my longest shifts. So she will be like, have you come back home? Like, are you home yet? Are you home yet? I'm like, no, I'm not home. So I was like, I'll be home late, but the password is XYZ. So she was like, it's not even about the password. When you come home, make sure you pass by my place first before you go home. I was like, okay, so this is serious. So I left work. I reached here at, I think around that day, almost 9. So I passed by the neighbor's house the way that she told me to. And while I was there, she now told me, like, as you went to work, as you leave for work every day, there is a man who normally comes here. I'm like, she was like, do you normally send someone to come to your house? I'm like, no, I've never sent anyone to come to my house. I normally like do all the errands myself, and the small errands I normally send my girls. So I've never sent any man into this house. And she was like, every single day when you leave for work, this man comes in, and this man will leave at around this time. And when you're back from work, the man will have already left. So it's like they know your patterns and they know what to do. So I was like, okay, do you happen to know like this man? So this neighbor of mine described the man that will normally come to this house. I'm like, I have never sent anyone to this house. I have never seen this man, but there are CCTVs, so I will go and check on the CCTV and see if it's someone I know. So that's what I did. And in fact, before the neighbor telling me this, I had realized like some suspicious activities in this house. But you know the way you're being told like, vitu zengine lenga, because as long as mtu anafanya kazi yake, wewe lenga tu vitu zengine so that you can just live in peace. So that's what I did. So I will notice some things, like for example, if I buy sugar, the normal sugar that will take us through the month, itakuwa inaisha katikati or somewhere, like vitu zilikuwa sasa zinaanza kuisha haraka. And I will be like, I will tell the nanny, jameni, pima, you kitambo nipate pesa nyingine ni mwisho wa mwezi. I can't keep on buying things again hapa katikati. Jaribu kupima vitu, I'm talking to her like, ajaribu kupima vitu, you know, such things. Kumbe this man anakuja anapikiwa food, atakunywa kwanzia chai hadi lunch. And so I was shopping for even this man. So that day, and I will, some things will disappear from the house, but I will be like, vitu zengine usiweke tu sana juu, yani you just, for the peace, you just ignore some things. So I went to the CCTV, the control room, and I said, so when my neighbor told me, she said like for instance today, this man came in at this time and left at this time. So I went to the control room and said, I just wanted to check the footage of this time to this time. And I was shown the footage, and oh my God, that footage of that day, I didn't even need to look at the other footage, like the other week, like for the whole week. I just, that for one day, that footage for that day was enough to tell me everything that I needed to know. So this man, so I left for work, this man came, and mind you, my son was at home at that day. My son had not gone to school. It was already a holiday. So this man came, my son was chased out of the house, and my son was outside confused, not knowing what to do or where to go. So he started playing, picking things and just dropping them down and going downstairs confused, not knowing what to do. And this man was in my house. My son was chased. So luckily my son did not go out of the gate. He went to another neighbor's house. There's another little girl, they're in the same class, so he went straight to their house and they started playing together. But they stayed in my house for a while, and then after lunch, that was when this man left the house. It was at around, I can't remember the exact time, but yeah, it was like after lunch. So I think ashakula paka lunch, amesha shiba. So this man left my house at that time. And I remember it was not like he left voluntarily. My son and that other kid that they were playing with, they came back here and they knocked. And you could have seen my son was hesitant. I don't know what threat my son was told, because as that other little girl was coming to knock on the door, I think they wanted to come and take the ball or something. But as that little girl came and knocked the door, my son stood from afar, like scared. You could have, like, the body language told me everything that I needed to know. And it was like a sad thing. And I recorded that CCTV footage on my phone. And by the way, before I even fire a nanny, I normally ask for second and third and fourth opinion from people. Like, am I overreacting about this? So if the majority says, no, you are not overreacting, then I go ahead with my decision. So I recorded that footage with my phone and I sent it to a couple of people. Like, I sent it first to my mom and I said, like, look at this footage and let me just know what you think. And my mom was like, hey, huyo aende atakuharibia mtoto. I don't know, but it was just sad because this was my most painful breakup with the nanny. I just saw myself with this nanny for a really long time, and for me to release her was heartbreaking, to be honest. And my mom was like, you have to release her. She has to go back home because no, we cannot tolerate such kind of behavior. And it was like she was bullying my son, because you could have seen the fear in my son. Like, no, I can't put the footage here, but you could have seen like the fear in my son, and she was more of bullying my son. And even before the footage, my auntie, it was now during the birthday of my son, my auntie and my mom even noticed the bullying tendencies. So my mom was like, no, she has to go, you have to release her. And I was just sad, to be honest, because I really thought that I was going to stay with this nanny for a very long time to come. But whatever happened, so I had to release her. And I remember I was releasing her and I didn't have any replacement, or I didn't have anyone else to take care of my son. So, and this thing had happened abrupt, when you just don't expect things to happen, they happen. So I remember that day I still had to go to work in the evening. I went and took my son to my cousin's place. And then I told them, like, just watch for my son for me for a couple of days as I figure things out. So I took my son there. I went to town and booked her bus, and then I went to work. After that, I came back and I just took her to the bus station and gave a call to the one who referred, and I said, like, okay, she's now at the bus station. If she doesn't come home, she's out of my hands. Like, I have done my duty. I have booked for her a ticket. I have taken her to the station. We have waited for the bus. But if she turns around and stays in Nairobi, she is not in my hands anymore. I have released her. So I gave the call to the person who referred me, and I told her, and I was like, I'm good, I have released her. But this nanny really broke my heart. This was the nanny that I thought that I will stay with for a while. You know, when you're comfortable and everything, but it is what it is. With this journey, it is what it is. So now, fast forward to this year, I got another nanny, and I must say, this nanny was a really good one, but I got her at the time I was just done with everything. I was done with everything, and I had decided that I was already going to quit my job and take care of my son alone. So I must say that this last nanny I got was a really good nanny, and I could see myself staying with her for a while. But she came at a time that I had given up on everything. I was tired. I was exhausted with this hiring journey. So I quit my job, you all know. So I didn't release her into the unknown. We found her another job, because my cousin Effie has a friend who also needed a nanny. So she just went from this house straight to her house. And true to what I believe, she's good, because she's still in that household. So she was a good nanny. So you can imagine, through this journey, I found the perfect nanny at the last minute. At the time where I had given up on this journey altogether. So that has been my experience with nanny. Is there something that I have left behind? I don't think I have left any. Is there any nanny that maybe I have hired and I have forgotten about? No, I don't think so. How many nannies are those? I'll count. But I know they're not more than 10 nannies, and they could have been more, because this hiring and firing thing is just exhausting. But at the time that I took S to the daycares, I got a little break from hiring the nannies. But hey, this journey, and I'm telling you guys, I thank God for this period of my life that I have been able to take care of my son on my own. Oh my God, I couldn't be grateful. Like, this is the best period of my life, I might say. And I know I can't live like this forever. At some point, I'll have to go back to the hustling world and hire nannies all over again. But I will be grateful for this period. Right now, I have been at peace. I have been fulfilled as a mother. I feel like my son and I are now much closer together, and that's all I've ever wanted. And I'm just happy in general to be taking care of my son, and I wish that I could continue living like this. But I know that's not possible. Like, I have to be back to the hustle at some point, and I'll have to be back to hiring nannies at some point. But this time I'll be hiring nannies with much ease, because my son can now communicate effectively. He can now tell me if there's a problem, and I am teaching my son to be able to speak up, and no one will be able to shut him down whenever there's a problem. So I'm so grateful for this moment in my life, and I'm just so happy that I have gotten to experience this moment in my life, because I know not everyone can do that. Many mothers wish to be able to take care of their children on their own, but it's not always the case. It's not always possible. And life has to happen, guys, and we have to rely on these nannies at one point or another. Like, we can't survive without them, especially if you are a working mom. So for me, I'm just grateful to have this period, for me to take this break from working and just take care of my son 100%. This is a blessing. This is all that I've ever wanted. And I have seen tremendous improvement in my son. I have seen, even the teacher has acknowledged his improvement as well. And that makes me happy. And yeah, but hiring nannies, wah. It's quite a task. So my advice to people who have not yet begun this journey is just hire and fire until you find the right one, because the right one will eventually come along. And some things, don't be petty over things. Try and vumilia, but there are some things you can't vumilia, because that nanny is there because of your child. And if something is not right pertaining to the child, then don't vumilia such things. But if everything to do with the child is perfect, then you can vumilia some things, because no one is perfect, to be honest, and you just have to go with the flow. And if a nanny comes to your house even for 2 days, amekusaidia hizo siku mbili. That's what I can say. Even if it's for 2 days, for 2 days that child has hit a milestone, so it's okay. It's okay. Just hire and fire until you find the one. Don't feel bad. And right now, a neighbor of mine is going through the nanny dramas, and I'm like, I've been there. It's quite a journey. But don't give up. Just hire and fire. You'll find the right one. Like my case, I found the right one, only that I had already given up on everything. It was, by the time I was finding the right one, it was too late. It was too late. I had already decided my fate. I had already decided that I'm going to do this thing on my own and get rid of the nannies. But I know I'll have to go back, and I hope by the time I'm going back to finding nannies again, I'll find a good one. Hopefully. Pray for me, guys. Anyway, if you have watched this video till here, thank you so much for watching this video till the end. I'll see you on the next one. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Like, comment, and share. And thank you. Bye.